Welcome back to Hobbies by Holly. Today's project is one of the most labor intensive I have done in a long time. This antique vanity belonged to my mother-in-law, and at some point she had added these adorable towels to the top, and I actually thought they were really cute and could have made a nice outdoor piece, but I knew for resale this needed a different direction. So let me take you through this whole journey because it was definitely a labor of love. First things first, those tiles had to come off. And my first instinct was to hammer them off, but that was way too loud. So I eventually switched to a metal putty knife and hammer and pried each one off individually, one by one. And this took about 2 hours of work. But eventually I did get them all off and discovered that there was this hard, dried adhesive underneath that had been holding them down. And it was definitely not a quick fix. So I got out my 80 grit orbital sanding disc and worked on breaking down that adhesive as much as possible. Someone had suggested maybe I try stripping it, which I've never done before, but in this case that might have been the better route to take. But nevertheless, I decided to sand. Then I gave everything a thorough clean using Crud Cutter and coming back with some of my Dawn dish liquid and hot water to clean it thoroughly. After that, I went back in with a sanding block and using 80 grit tried to tackle more of the stubborn adhesive. Whatever paint was originally used on this piece did not want to come off, no matter what I tried. So my approach became sand it as much as possible, scuff it up, and prime over it. But of course there were still some dings and dents in the top, so I went over everything using Bondo. I got out my aqua coat, which sometimes helps on the really minor dents and dings. Then I sanded everything using a 120 grit to make sure I scuffed it up and made it smooth for priming. Again, I couldn't remove this paint. I'm not sure exactly what kind of paint it was, but as long as I could scuff it up enough to make sure primer and new paint sticks, that was great. After thoroughly sanding the top again with 120 grit, I noticed there were still some dings and dents in the top. So I got out the Bondo again, as well as my Bondo glazing putty to smooth it all out before priming. Finally, once I could run my hand over the top and feel a nice smooth finish, it was time to prime. And of course, I did multiple coats of primer and sanded lightly in between coats. For color, I went with Fusion Mineral Paint in Newell again. I actually had about a half jar still left over from a previous project, and I really liked this sage green. The paint goes on very smoothly. You need to add about 10% water to your sprayer if you do plan on spraying it. But I will say this paint levels very well, and you'll see shortly that I actually used a paintbrush here to touch up some areas that I had missed and to get into some of those hard to reach areas with the spray gun. I also touched up the dovetail drawers with paint to match the rest of the piece, and I think this makes it look really clean and intentional against the sage green. But one thing I should have done is remove the old white paint first. So I went in afterwards with some acetone and tried to clean it up as much as possible, but lesson learned, that should have been the first step. Next up was the drawer liner, and I found this beautiful pattern online and thought it would pair so nicely with the Newell Sage Green. This drawer doesn't come out completely, so I had to do the whole thing from inside the vanity. I cleaned the drawer out first thoroughly and then started in the back corner and slowly worked my way across, using a razor blade to trim everything to size. For the hardware, I cleaned up the original hardware and I wanted to get a better look at it, honestly, because it's so pretty. These dainty little flower details are just so cute, and I knew immediately I wanted to preserve the original hardware on this piece rather than replace it. So once cleaned up, it was time to add the beautiful original hardware back on, and I think that these little dainty flowers are honestly one of my favorite parts of the whole piece. And finally, here she is, and I'm really proud of this one. It was one of the most labor-intensive projects I've taken on recently. I could picture this maybe in a nursery or possibly an entryway. The sage green with the original hardware just gives it such a sweet, soft feel. If you enjoyed this transformation, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for new videos every week. I have more exciting pieces coming up. See you next week.